Welcome to the BookingLive event hosted here in London at the Frontline Club. It's an honour to see so many of you here at our first event. Only about 50% of those registered have actually turned up, so feel free to enjoy the extra wine and chocolates that we've provided for you. Today's event is a preview on the forthcoming version 3 of BookingLive. I'm sure many of you have your questions ready, and equally you're looking to network and share your experiences with fellow users of BookingLive. Okay, so let's kickstart with some facts and figures. Since we established in 2007, technology has evolved. 87% of the world now owns a mobile device, with 34% of the consumers saying mobile is now more important than desktop. That's why we're now taking a mobile-first approach to our software. Something we're proud of at BookingLive is the amount of features and flexibility within the product, and we're extending that further within version 3. Really was something we thought of a few months ago. An event to sort of showcase, we felt the timing was right to showcase the new product and to bring you guys together. So already some of you have been networking, you know contacts, some of you that know BookingLive is more powerful than maybe what you're using it for, and then suddenly you're speaking next to someone who's a real advocate and using a lot of the system. So really it's to show the new product, to bring you guys together, and also to sort of maybe educate you and to have a couple of great guest speakers with us that you will find, I think, very interesting in what they've got to talk about.
I'd like to give you 3 steps on how to best assess and how to improve your website and how that connects to your audience. So step 1 is to design around actions. Humans love stories. Obviously, everything that we do in the media is around stories. From the first stories you hear as a child to things that we relate to in the media. From your daily soap to your Twitter feed, everything has a narrative to it. So for the website interface, what I mean by narrative is it has to have a good visual balance and textual balance. Encourage action. So for this, I have a handy acronym. Remember, AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and then action. What you need to try and avoid is overwhelming your audience with choices. For example, you don't want to have a grid-style structure, which gives too many instructions, too many buttons, too many things to do, because ultimately users are confused as to what they should be doing. Step 2, designing with emotion. What I'm really saying is thinking about people's emotional reactions to a theme and understanding what human beings will be using your website. Use of imagery. You can't tell people to think, but how you can influence how they feel. But above all, be bold and have your personality and express yourself as you see fit. Have your audience connect to those people. Have your business as a collaboration for human beings. Express the narrative you think your audience would appreciate. So for example, MailChimp is a great example. I don't know if anyone's heard of MailChimp as an e-marketer. The great thing about what MailChimp does is that it expresses, its tone of voice is fantastic. It's got a brave sense of design. It's always a good example I point to in terms of interface, tone of voice, and the way they conduct their website in general.
So who's doing SEO or has done some SEO here? Who thinks SEO is a complete dark art? Good. Okay, a couple. I was going to say, there's always bound to be a few. In the UK search market, 90% of people use Google to search. These areas are paid ads through Google and indeed similar through Yahoo and Bing. And then these are the areas that traditionally are sort of organic or natural listings, which is where SEO works. And then there's lots of other things now that increasingly are feeding into Google's listings too. So what is SEO? As I said, I think a lot of people think about it as being a process of improving your rankings in Google and the other search engines. And in many senses, simplistically, it is. But I think some of the things that people forget is that ultimately it's about improving your traffic. But also, it's about improving the quantity and the quality of traffic to your site. And I think that notion of quality of traffic is something people often forget in SEO, because it's not just about thinking what keywords are going to drive the biggest volume of traffic to my site. It's also about thinking what sort of keywords are going to drive people to my site that are actually then going to convert. Nowadays, Google is kind of coming full circle back to where it started, which is saying, what is the content of these sites? What is it that our searchers want to find? And therefore, those are the sites that are ranking highly rather than the ones which just have the technical SEO elements to it. I'm sure you'll have heard of the notion that link building is one of the big things in SEO. It is about getting other people to link to your site, but it's also about getting people to talk about your site, getting citations about you across the web. Google's very clever nowadays. It doesn't just have to rely on links coming to your site to get that sense of, are other people talking about you? Are you relevant within the World Wide Web? Metadata is one of the terms that we use for talking about that sort of back-end stuff. But actually, you can understand it by understanding what you see in the search results. So the blue line here at the top, that's what we call a title tag. The URL, which is in green, is neat, it's readable, again, /SEO-London. Not only can the search engines understand that really simply in terms of our keywords and what we do, but also a user can understand that. It makes it very clear.
Previously, we had fixed layouts. You had to conform to BookingLive's layout standard, which was a header, 3 columns on the left, 1 on the right. We've now opened that up. It's not fully open up, but we have a number of defined styles that you can choose from, and this is all fluid. So on a page-by-page basis, if you have a set of widgets on the page and maybe you don't like the layout for that page, you can select a new layout, change it, all the widgets will stay in the correct sections, and your page will adjust to that automatically because of the responsive nature. Again, going back to responsiveness, because it's a very, very strong theme that we want to push forward. The CMS will allow you to flip between different view modes, and we'll demo all this in a second. On the existing system, if you had content on your website, you would have to replicate that content many times. If you updated it, you'd have to update it in many places. We've gone for a single updatable sort of object approach. So now if you have, for example, an advertisement banner on your website, you'll set that up once, include it on all the pages you want, and when you're ready to refresh that with new images or whatever, you'll update that in one place and it will be across your website instantaneously, and that goes across the board for widgets, Facebook configurations, everything like that. Another introductory feature is metadata schemas. So Cara talked about schemas, and traditionally a customer will have fairly basic metadata on their website, so they might have a description title. With this metadata schema, you can define a high-level schema for your website with dynamic content such as the location name, and roll that out across your site tree automatically and update it again in one place. So I believe that we should make your life as easy as possible, and essentially cut out the things that maybe you shouldn't really need to do. And with the new version, this is very much something that I'm pushing for. So if you're using one of our proprietary widgets, we will automatically wrap schema tags around that widget when it's displayed on the website, and that ultimately will increase your SEO visibility. I'm going to move on to the booking journey, because this is probably one of the best aspects, and when we're talking about responsiveness, this is where most of the work's gone to date. So that might look quite familiar, and you would probably know it as the list item widget in the old system. One of the main factors is that every page, because this is just a page on the website, is responsive. So if I start shrinking it down, you'll see it collapsing. So this example here, I think if we get down to lower breakpoints, you'll see it squashing up. Essentially, if we go through the booking process now, you'll see that the actual header's changed as well. So if I go through and click book now, we'll actually start going into the booking process. So just bear in mind that this is obviously a generic style. The amount of theming we can do in the new one is a lot better than the old system, so we've structured it in a way where the booking process can basically be endlessly customized to your needs. Again, if I'm on this page and I shrink it down, you can see it goes to responsive, and we'll just transition through to the next page there as well. So this is the traditional basket page, and you can see we have the standard functionality there. We've got the promo codes, we've got the checkout option, we've also got the continue shopping button, which will automatically redirect your shopper back to where they came from before they started booking their activity. So that's all automated. There's no need to define that anymore. And if we go through to the checkout, this is one of the most exciting areas where we've actually done optimization. So if I collapse this down to a mobile platform, you'll see that the actual form is actually quite long for a consumer. So I think that this act of introducing responsiveness is going to make people think about the data they actually collect from their customers, because traditionally when I look at customer systems, a lot of fields are being captured where they may not need to be, and this could potentially be a blocker for you in terms of mobile compatibility and your customers actually going through the booking process. So this is the customer journey, which I'll show you now. I was logged in as an admin there, but this is a customer journey, and down the bottom we'll see the main introduction. So you'll now be able to have multiple gateways. So for example, if you want to offer, this example is Wirecard, but if you wanted to offer someone PayPal or SagePay or a different option of paying, they now have this in the drop down. And with that, they'll actually be able to have, I'd call it refund text, but it is essentially notification text of the gateway involved. So for WorldPay, maybe you would have the refund policy, which is a requirement by them. So that's all in here by default. And you can have as many payment types as you want. And there is also a handoff procedure for this. So when we redirect the customer, we tell them they're going to Wirecard, and then we send them to Wirecard rather than just kicking them to the payment gateway and back, which wasn't a very nice user experience. So managing your bookings, this is not a final representation of what we want to push, but I will show you what's there now, and show you really where we want to get to. As I talked about earlier, we're very much approaching design as a major factor before we do development from now on. One of the common complaints we get is that people don't really know what's going on with their booking. So for that, we've introduced something called timeline. So you'll now be able to see on a high level exactly what's happened with your booking. So when the customer made the order, when any messages were sent out, when they made payments. For example, if you have a deposit system, you'd actually be able to see that they had an initial order, 6 months down the line, maybe they paid the 50% deposit. You'll also see things like planned actions, so planned messages to go out, planned deposits, and so forth. And this is something that I think is really exciting when you get down to the level of analyzing an event. For example, we'll use the context of, let's say you sent out a publication for a certain product on your website. You'll now be able to see exactly through another view, which I'll come on to shortly, when bookings were made on an entire event. So if you advertise something for Christmas and sent out a publication maybe mid-December, you would actually see on a timeline exactly when bookings were made. So perhaps you'll see an uptake of bookings after the publication went out, for example. So it's a good way of visualizing what's actually going on. So you should now be able to visualize all of your bookings on a calendar in the system. So this is really a representation of an event. So for those of you on the old system who maybe would have a schedule, this would be a representation of that schedule, showing you exactly who's attending and giving you a whole host of options. So on that screen there, we've got make new booking. We've maybe got one to message everyone on the event. We've got one to cancel event, which will instigate other actions, for example, sending out emails, automatic emails. And we've got a check-in button, which will go through a check-in process for your clients. So for those of you who maybe do operate check-ins, I know many have it just automatically turned on. You would be able to see exactly who's coming to your event, check them in, and then obviously send feedback email based on them actually coming to the event. And the other exciting one here is reschedule. So if I want to physically shift an event, I should be able to do that. And this will allow you to shift the schedule and then subsequently notify those clients affected that a reschedule has taken place. As I said, this is still in progress. So what I have brought along is really the internal designs that we're looking to achieve. So when I talked about us reviewing the design processes, this is very much how we're approaching it. So we're looking at what's the actual customer needs, and this is the intended view. So exactly as you just seen there, we've got the event, but we actually have metadata attached to the view on here. So you can see how many spaces are left, and for example, if it's staffed. Coming on to reporting, a point of contention in the old system, you'll be glad to hear that in the new one it's unified into one area. So you'll only see reports in one area, and we've also shifted manifests into reports because that's ideally where they should live. We've tried to keep this kind of simple. You can see up here I can select the product, I think that is up there, or the location. I think it's the location. So on here I've just checked all. I want to run the report for all locations, and I want to use this time span between these times. I've run the report here, and you can actually see the data. So traditionally now what would happen is a client would come along and say, well, I don't want that, or I want the actual product price on there, the individual product price or something like that. That's all now possible. So you'll now actually be able to customize this report, and it will save to your actual profile in the system. So if you don't like what ships with by default with BookingLive, go into the system, edit the column, save it, it will be there for life, and it will work for you. So if I can click on here, I can see a list of fields that I can actually attach to this report. And the other feature is downloading. So we've skipped over the CSV downloads. They're not very user-friendly and gone straight for Excel. So I think this one's long awaited, at least from a few clients, which is a dashboard. So when you log in, you probably don't want to go through all of the orders in your system to see what's happened. So with the new version, we've actually introduced the dashboard. Going forward, we now handle VAT as standard in BookingLive Free, which I'm sure is exciting for those of you guys running a large business. And we're also promoting Xero integrations. And it's an online accounting tool, purely cloud-based. There is no install on your local machine. You pay a flat monthly fee. And what this allows us to do is to push invoices from your system directly into Xero, and you'll have all of the reports that come with Xero standards, so profit, loss, balance sheet, liabilities, everything like that will go through. So I've touched on what's there now and where we're headed. So these are just a list of features that we're currently either developing or will be developing shortly. So one on there that we are actually developing and has been developed would be the smart content editor. So going back to the old system, if you were creating an email, we'd commonly get questions, what can I put in this email? We've now solved that, so if you're creating an email, we'll tell you exactly what merge tags you can add at the point. So there doesn't have to be any contact with us, it doesn't have to be any manual reading, it will be there in the system for you and easy to use. On top of that, we're going to be publishing a full REST API, which is long overdue, and that will be developed from the ground up. And also, single sign-on is one of my favorites. So your customers will be able to finally log in with Facebook or log in with Google or log in with Twitter